Welcome to this hands-on lab for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 10. In this exercise, we look at bash history, the record of the commands you type. By default, bash keeps only a limited number of commands in memory, and an even larger limit for the history file. In this lab, you will inspect those limits, adjust them for your own user account, verify the change, and explore related options like timestamps and duplicate control. Let's get started. Here is what we will cover. First, how bash history works and what the two limits mean. Second, inspecting the current values with echo. Third, adjusting the limits in your .bashrc file. Fourth, applying and verifying the change. Fifth, tuning history behavior with timestamps and duplicate control. And finally, system-wide defaults for all users, plus best practices. Before you begin, make sure you have a RHEL 10 system, a terminal window, and a normal user account. No root access is required for this lab because we only edit your own .files. Let's understand how bash history works. Every interactive bash session keeps the commands you type in memory and writes them to a history file when the session ends. On RHEL 10, that file is .bash_history in your home directory. Two variables control the limits. Hist size is the number of commands kept in memory during a session. Hist file size is the number of lines kept in the history file on disk. In Bash version 5, which ships with RHEL 10, the defaults are 1,000 commands in memory and 2,000 lines in the file. You can raise these limits to keep a longer record, or lower them to reduce the trail on a shared or sensitive system. The limits are set in your startup files, most commonly in .bashrc, which every interactive shell reads. Step 1. Inspect the current limits. In your terminal, run echo $hist size. Then, echo $hist file size. You should see the defaults, 1,000 and 2,000. Type a few commands, then run history to see them recorded. You can also count the lines currently in the history file with wc-l ~bashhistory. This gives you the starting point before we change anything. Step 2. Adjust the limits for your user. Open your .bashrc with an editor, for example, vi:\.bashrc. At the end of the file, add two export lines. Export HIST size equals 5,000 and export HIST file size equals 10,000. Save and exit. These lines set the limits for every new interactive shell. Note that HIST size limits memory and HIST file size limits the file, and the two are independent. If you set HIST size to 0, no commands are kept at all. If you set it to a negative number, like -1, history can grow without limit, which is usually not what you want. Step 3. Apply and verify. The changes in .bashrc only affect new shells, so either open a new terminal or run source-.bashrc in the current session. Then check echo $hist size and echo $hist file size. They should now show 5,000 and 10,000. Run a few commands and confirm they are recorded with the history command. After your session ends, the history file is trimmed to the new file size limit. Step 4. Tune the behavior. You can make history far more useful with timestamps. Run export hist time format equals %f space %t space quote. Every new entry is then stored with a date and time. To skip duplicates, run export hist control equals ignore both. This ignores repeated commands and also commands that start with a space. That space trick is useful. A command prefixed with a space is never recorded, handy for secrets or one-off commands. You can also ignore specific commands with hist ignore, for example, history, ls, and pwd. Add these exports to .bashrc alongside the size limits. Step 5. Set system-wide defaults. If you are the administrator, you can define history limits for every user in the file /etc/profile.d/history.sh. Create it with your editor, add the same export lines, and save. Login shells read this directory through the profile mechanism, so all users inherit the new limits. Users can still override them in their own .bashrc, which is read later. This is a clean way to enforce an organizational standard. A few best practices. Keep the file limit reasonable. A very large history file can slow down shell startup, so 10,000 lines is a good default. Use HIST time format on systems that need audit trails, like production servers. Protect secrets with ignore space, and never type passwords into commands that you cannot clear from history. Remember that the settings apply only to new shells, unless you source the file. And if a command is missing from history, check HIST control and HIST ignore. Then run history-A to append the current session immediately. Congratulations! You have completed the lab. Recap. You inspected the default history limits, adjusted HIST size and HIST file size in .bashrc, applied the changes, and explored timestamps and duplicate control. You also saw how to set system-wide defaults. You now know how to control how much Bash remembers on RHEL 10. Practice on your test system, and remember, history is a record of your work, so size it to match your needs. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next lab.